Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I'm going to ask a question. Maybe I'll give you a few answers to it, but I don't know the answer myself. I have a good indication of the answer, but not certain. And the question is this reel collectible? And I get that a lot. A lot of people ask me about the valuations of reels and what's it worth, and is there a market for it used, and is it collectible in certain cases. A lot of times I will get a question, particularly if it's relative to, I got this reel from my uncle, aunt, brother, sister, dad, whomever, and been in the family a while. I'm just curious about whether I should sell it or keep it, or what I should do with it. And this one, reels, I tend to look for reels every now and then, but sometimes they just plain find me. And I was in a little antique store recently, and just walking down the aisles looking at things just to kind of distract myself. And here's this pole with the reel on it. And the first thing I noticed about the reel was that it had squared shoulders on both sides. Well, that's usually an indication of a very early Penn reel, before they went to the rounded shoulder approach later on. And then I noticed that it had some edge side plates, and I was curious about the handle. A lot of the early Penn reels came with wooden handles, and in this case, this reel came with the Bakelite one. Let me get this off, it's a little bit easier. Came with the Bakelite one, and that kind of led me to say, okay, what's the size of that handle? Because that might give you an indication as to whether it's a replacement handle or not. Was it original, right? So there was some work to do. Well, speaking of work to do, I want to thank our first responders and essential personnel and everybody who's involved in keeping us safe during this pandemic. They're out there on the front lines every day, more hours than you can imagine, trying to keep us safe, whether they're in the medical fields, directly in the hospitals or the doctor's offices or long-term care facilities, or whether they're in the uniformed services, police, fire, and so on. All of those folks out there deserve our thanks. They are our local hometown heroes, and their efforts truly are appreciated. Well, that was an interesting segue, but let's take a look at this, and let's see if we can't answer some of the questions. Let's see if we can't figure out what this is. So the first thing you look at is, what is the reel? And the reel is a Penn Seagate, and no number. Now, it happens to be the number 125 in the Penn catalog, but it's strictly a Penn Seagate reel. Well, if it's unnumbered, most of the time that's an indication that it's an earlier reel than the current ones. Penn went over to starting to number reels, and again, the Seagate became a number 125. But on the side plates, it also says patented, made in the USA, but no number underneath it. So the square shoulders, the name of the reel, gives me the access to go on the internet and try and find out a little bit more about it. Now, mysticparts.com has an informational section in addition to the schematic. So if you go and find your reel, in this case you would go to the conventional reels, and then it would ask you to put in or select which one it is. Well, it's just part of the C series. So you had Seaboy, Seahawk, and the like, Sea Scamp. And if you put that in, you can find it. And then there's three options that you have on their site. One of the options is for a schematic, which is what I use most, but there's also two others. One is a reel spec selection, and the other is the owner's manual. Well, the first place I decided to go was the owner's manual, and that was a generic owner's manual from the 1960s, and I know that because it had a zip code on it for the location of Penn. So that wasn't going to date this reel. But when I went to the reel specs section, it said that this was introduced in the late 1930s and only was produced through the 1940s, and that kind of makes sense with these squared shoulders. I've had Penn Long Beach reels where it said nothing but Long Beach up top. And the little narrative in those reel specs said this is the predecessor of the Long Beach 60. So if you're collecting on age, then you know that this reel is somewhat collectible because it's the earlier Penn reels. We did a look on the handle, and the handle, like I said, it had this Bakelite knob on it, and I was unsure, is that the right or appropriate knob? Well, the later knobs are bigger. This one may be too big, but later knobs are bigger, so that this seems to be period correct on that. The wear seems to be correct, and this oil port seems to be correct as well. Next thing is condition. So you look at it, you look at the metal pieces on it, and the metal pieces are lightly pitted. The chrome is faded. There's some oil leaking here, but overall people would prefer a legitimate older survivor kind of a look than one that is scrubbed clean. And if you are collecting reels, my advice is do not replace the original metalwork unless they're broken, but leave that metalwork. Now, it is acceptable to clean the metalwork. You can use various cleaners out there, but I would leave the original metalwork in place if you have the original metalwork. Some people want to make them look pretty. They'll go out and buy the new crossbars for the 60s. They would fit. Go out and buy a new handle, re-chrome the thing and that. That's nice, but from a collectability standard, that wouldn't work that well with this reel. Another indication of how early it is the etched side plate. And a lot of folks out there that collect the Penn reels collect etched side plate reels. Well, this one's got a surf caster, got a lighthouse, has a little sailboat in there. It says Penn reel, Penn Fishing Tackle Manufacturing Company, Philadelphia, made by in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So this would appeal to them. And I think the only thing that if there's something to be said wrong about this, and there is, if you're scoring reels on a collectible standpoint, you would say that the chip in the side plate here, and it's just a little one, it's hardly noticeable, but there is a little chip in the side plate there, and true collectors who are looking for the top-notch reel would obviously look for very shiny, bright work, and they would look for a pristine condition of the etching. And this one's very good. Almost all of the etching is there. The ripples of the ocean, the lines of the clouds, and so on are all in pretty good shape. But there is one defect there that they would pay attention to. And then another one that they would take is, well, how is the reel working? Well, this one's spinning, okay? And we have a relatively decent performance on this, and that was just picked right up, and it's spinning, okay? So from a service standpoint, what's acceptable? Well, you want to keep your reel serviced. So there's no shame in opening up this reel, cleaning it out, lubricating it, greasing it, even replacing the wearable parts like the springs and the drag washers. That's all acceptable from a collector standpoint. This one appears to need drags. I'm looking behind it here, and there's very little space or gap between the collar and the star adjuster, which means those drags are worn. If you really want to get period correct, go find some leather washers to put in. These would be an example of the leather washers. They're an older washer style that came with the reel, or you can go ahead and put the HT100s in it. The performance being optimized is better than leaving it go in an as-found condition. If it's ready to fish, that does score some points there. You also want to pay attention when you're doing that. Does the clicker work? That's the little alarm. And the answer here is that clicker does work. Again, most of the collectors will want to have a nice sharp click to it, indicating that it's been maintained and used. If it's been heavily used, the point on the clicker will wear, and you'll either get a very weak click or no click at all. So is this reel collectible? Yes. Who's going to buy it, and what are they going to pay for it? Well, if there's scores or gradings or on a scale of 1 to 10, with the chip and the side plate here, and some of the chrome loss and the like. It's probably around a 7 in terms of a collectible, and I'm not a judge. I don't rate reels, but I would say it's probably around a 7. You got nice solid side plates, with the exception of the chip. All of the features and functions work. A lot of the original chrome is on its place, and it's a good looking reel. So it may not be optimal to the person who is collecting, let's say, the etched side plates or that. It may not be optimal example of the Penn Seagate. It may be an example where they don't have one. Maybe they have beautiful, pristine series of all of the ones that were early manufactured. Maybe they're missing the Seagate. Well, this would be a good purchase. They wouldn't pay optimal price. There's somebody out on eBay today that's got one for $150. It's clean, beautiful, bright work, and everything else. This one would not sell for $150, but let's say this reel was worth $50 in its current condition. Well, it's a good placeholder until you find that better model. And a lot of collectors get started that way. They get started by just acquiring one model of each. If you happen to be collecting early Penn fishing reels, they'll get one of each. And as the opportunity arises, and maybe they get a couple more dollars, they'll start swapping out the ones that they got early on, maybe has more condition issues, with the later ones that are in better condition. And then the ones that they pass on, that they swapped out, well, they start the collection, or they fill in the gaps in the collection from other individuals that are out there trying to accomplish the same thing about collecting them. We also are missing a handle screw tie down. You can replace that one. That's not a big deal. So to answer the question, is it collectible? It is collectible. Is it the top grade collectible? Not by any means. We talked a little bit about what to service and what to leave alone. Service the interior. Make sure that it works nicely. Don't go crazy on the bright work. Don't heavily polish the reel. Don't grind down the corrosion. Don't do anything like that. Just lightly buff it at best. You can use something like a Penn rod and reel cleaner with a cloth maybe to wipe it off, but don't go crazy. Don't start using anything that's going to abrade it or the like. And if you are collecting it, you certainly have a story to tell about where you found it, like I did with the antique shop. And if you're looking to sell it, you have a little bit of an idea about what the points are that a collector will look at it. I am not a collector. I think a lot of people have asked that over time. I am not a collector. I appreciate the old reels, but I believe in giving them a second chance. And in this case, the second chance that I will give the Seagate is to pass that along to somebody who is a collector, and see if they can enjoy that, either as a new addition to their collection, or perhaps an upgrade over the one that they may have at the time. So the reel is from the 1930s, 1940s. It's about an 80-year-old reel, and it's in nice condition given the life that it's had, and hopefully it'll continue to give somebody joy and support. You know, by the way, if they wanted to put a line on it and take it fishing, well, as soon as I complete the service on the inside, they'll be able to do that as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this little segment. If you did, please like it. If you want to see more of these types of things, please subscribe. And if you have a question on this or any fishing reel, maybe you're working on one and you're stuck at the moment, leave that in the comment section. I'll be happy to provide that to you. And then finally, I do repair reels by mail, and if you're interested in my repair services, you can contact me using the business card that follows. Please send an email. It's a lot more efficient than trying to reach me by phone. So this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.